Our top story. Live-in relationships are fairly common in the world we live in. Many couples either don't get married or don't want to get married, and they don't see a problem living in before marriage. To each their home, absolutely no harm. But recently, such live-in relations have led to some bone-chilling crimes. The Shraddha murder last year is probably the most talked about case. The brutality of a woman cut up into 32 pieces, her body parts stored in the fridge, bones put through a mixer to be disposed. These are horrors only the most diabolical can execute. Turns out there are many more aftabs out there. Depraved, sick, abusive, toxic. Tonight, we are bringing you two more such instances, one from Delhi and the other from Palghar in Maharashtra. Let's start, though, from the national capital. 24-year-old Nikki Yadav was found dead inside a fridge in a dhaba in Delhi. The dhaba belonged to a man called Sahil Gehlot, who was not just the accused in the case, but also Nikki's boyfriend. Nikki and Sahil met way back in 2018. The same year, they started living together in Greater Noida. But in December last year, Sahil's family fixed his marriage. He was to be engaged on February 9th and married the following day. When Nikki got to know about this, she asked Sahil to break off the marriage. On February 9th, the couple, that is Nikki and Sahil, decided to meet. Sahil promised to take Nikki on a vacation to Himachal Pradesh. But during the journey, they had a heated argument. Sahil used a data cable to strangle Nikki and kill her in the car. But listen closely to what he does next. He drove 40 kilometers to his dhaba in Delhi and stuffed Nikki's body in the fridge. Hours later, in fact, 8 hours later, he married another woman like his family had asked him to. No remorse, nothing. You just go ahead and marry another woman 8 hours after you have killed your girlfriend and dumped her in the fridge. Nikki's family is confused and angry right now. Her father says he never met Sahil. He says he's never even spoken to him. Listen in.
आपको कभी पता था इस आरोपी के बारे में?
नहीं, हमें कुछ नहीं पता था।
कभी निकी की बात हुई आपसे इस बारे में कि
नहीं।
कोई दोस्त है उसका जो जानता है?
नहीं हुई।
कैसी सजा चाहते हैं इस टाइप के? एक ही दिन बाद उसे शादी भी की, इतना घटिया काम कोई कैसे कर सकता है?
सर, हम तो यही चाहते हैं कि उसको सजाए मौत मिले बस।
जी। अभी कौन कौन है आपके परिवार में?
मेरे परिवार के सारे परिवार के मेरे सब यही हैं।
जी। कब से निकी घर से बाहर रहती थी? 2018 की बात चल रही है।
ये 5 साल से घर से बाहर थी।
क्या बनना चाहती थी वो?
वो प्रोफेसर बनना चाहती थी, पीएचडी करके।
हाँ। और अभी हाल फिलहाल में कब गई थी घर वो?
अभी 25 दिन पहले गई थी।
तो आप लोगों को कैसे पता चला कि ऐसी घटना हो चुकी है?
हमारे को तो जब उसका फोन स्विच ऑफ जा रहा था तब हमने उसका नंबर निकाला कहीं से, तब जाके पता लगा।
तो तब तक घर कब से फोन बंद हो रहा था आपका?
उनका फोन बंद फ्राइडे से था।
फ्राइडे से ही बंद था, तभी आप लोग को शक हुआ?
हाँ।
अभी आप पोस्टमार्टम के लिए जा रहे हैं, पुलिस से आपकी क्या बात हुई है?
पुलिस की हमारा पूरा सहयोग कर रही है, दिल्ली पुलिस की का हमारे साथ पूरा सहयोग है।
हमने आरोपी को अरेस्ट किया था और आज हम 5 दिन का उनका पुलिस रिमांड लेके आए हैं। पूछताछ जारी है और जो उन्होंने रूट फॉलो किया है रात को गाड़ी में, उस रूट को आइडेंटिफाई करने के लिए हमारी मल्टीपल टीम्स लगी हुई हैं, ताकि वहाँ अगर कोई सीसीटीवी फुटेज है या कोई और क्लू है तो हम ले सकें। उनको 5 दिन के रिमांड पे लेके आए हैं, यही पूछने के लिए कि क्या कोई प्लानिंग थी या नहीं थी, अल्टीमेटली बॉडी को डिस्पोज ऑफ कैसे करना चाहते थे। तो ये अभी अनुसंधान का विषय है, जैसे ही पता चलेगा हम शेयर करेंगे आपके साथ।
The postmortem report has confirmed that strangulation was the cause of Nikki's death. But the exact time of the murder is yet to be ascertained. The accused, Sahil, has been sent to 5 days police custody. Meanwhile, CCTV footage has surfaced of Nikki entering Sahil's house. That's the CCTV footage on your screens. Now, this could be the last time she was actually seen alive. Reports say Nikki met her sister before leaving with Sahil. Okay, as you take a look at those pictures, A similar horror was reported in Maharashtra as well. A 37-year-old nurse was found dead inside a rented house. The police discovered the body after locals complained of smell that was emanating from the house. And guess where they found the body? They found it stuffed inside the bed box. The accused is her live-in partner, Hardik. The police says Hardik was unemployed and the victim, Megha, was the lone breadwinner. This reportedly led to frequent fights between the two. One of these fights led to the murder. Hardik then tried to escape by train but was caught by the railway police in Madhya Pradesh. Just like Shraddha and Nikki, Megha too was murdered by her live-in partner. What sort of toxic relationships are we talking about? Where a man will not think twice about murdering his live-in partner, his girlfriend, dumping her in the fridge or in the bed box, and going ahead and marrying another woman the same day. We'll try and understand what goes through a diabolical mind and whether there is a safety net that women in live-in relationships need as well. Let me introduce our guest to you this evening. Dr. Harish Shetty is a psychiatrist joining us on the broadcast. Ranjana Kumari is an activist, and Yashovardhan Azad is a former IPS officer. Yashovardhan Azad, as a former IPS officer, can I ask you what explains the nature of these gruesome crimes, whether it was Shraddha, whether it is Nikki, whether it is Megha? This takes a special kind of diabolical mind to murder someone you love. What sort of love is this? To murder someone you love and then to dump them in the fridge or in the bed box without any remorse.
Yes, it's a typical trait of hardened criminals who want the best of both worlds and try playing along. In the case of Nikki, for example, the accused was not trying to explain to her, nor he was trying to break with her, nor he was trying to explain to his own parents that he couldn't marry because he was already in love. The other part is that today's atomized societies, it is so difficult because I must talk about policing. Can policing save these kind of incidents? So yes, if you have a kind of a community policing, which is so close to the residents' welfare societies where they get information, then obviously something can be done. Information flow is there. But the problem, Shreya, is today our society does not accept love marriages, does not accept live-in relationships, does not accept divorces. And so it's a huge problem that safety net for the girl disappears entirely. Now, I just heard an interview on your channel only when the father says that they didn't know anything, and then her phone was switched off, and finally they went there and found this. In a situation like this, I can only say that there will be no justice because obviously if the man has already been caught, he'll be prosecuted, and even if he gets a life imprisonment or whatever, there'll be no justice because the girl is already dead. To save future lives, we have to do something. I mean, in the sense that there should be a wide discussion on these issues about women who have had broken relationships but have made their lives, people whose love marriages have broken, yet they have come out and they are doing very well. Somehow our society is trying to keep these things hidden. And that is why even the police is not able to reach out or have that kind of community contact so that they get early warning. In this case, in Nikki's case, one point is there that her body was taken for about 40 kilometers after she was murdered. Now they're trying to see the CCTVs, whether it would have been possible for a flying squad or somebody to take notice of an incident like this. But all in all, I can say this is horrible and horrific. And we must try and see that we save our future lives of other girls who are in similar relationships.
How do you do that? I'll ask Ranjana Kumari that in just a bit. How do you do that? How do you ensure that safety net? But Dr. Harish Shetty, before I do that, I want to come to you. Yashovardhan Azad has just said that these are typical traits of hardened criminals. But the fact is that if you look at the criminal history of Aftab, none, absolutely clean. No crime committed before what he did to Shraddha. Similarly, Sahil, similarly, Hardik. So these actually are not hardened criminals in the sense that they have not committed a crime before they have went ahead and murdered their girlfriends and dumped them in fridges or in bed boxes. What explains this absolute lack of remorse, where you think it's okay to chop your girlfriend into 32 parts, where you feel it's okay to dump your girlfriend in a fridge and go marry another girl in 8 hours, or dump your girlfriend in a bed box and take a train off to Madhya Pradesh? What explains this, sir? You'll have to unmute yourself, sir.
I think it's very important to understand that in this world of anonymity, thanks to globalization, wherein you do not know who's staying next door, those with latent psychopathic traits get emboldened and they believe they can do anything and actually get away. That is number one. Number two is also, as my friend, the police officer, said beautifully, the circumference of safety is missing. And the circumference of safety is missing because girls are very ashamed to share this with their friends. Girls are very scared to share this with their parents or even their acquaintances. So when you are in love and you have no friends, the chances of you being murdered is very high. Number three, which is also very important, is there are copycat suicides. There's enough evidence for copycat suicides. We need to look whether there is enough evidence for copycat murders also. Do people get emboldened by similar murders done by others in the past? Lastly, it is important to understand that in schools and colleges, we do not have to talk about learning alone, but we have to talk about love, learning, and life. And this is one of the most preventive ideologies which we need to share. And when the world caught in the midst of globalization, where people are not connected, we need to start reconnection in small ways, both in mohallas as well as in buildings, schools and colleges, so that we can detect things earlier. Also, what is love? The girl was not aware that this was not love. This was possessiveness. This was a lot of control. This was a lot of paranoia. Again, a lot of girls, my dear friends, who fall into this probably have trauma, probably have been sexually abused, and probably also have difficulties in their own lives in many, many cases.
But Dr. Harish Shetty, these guys, the three people that we are talking about today, not just Aftab, but today Hardik and Sahil as well, they're not regular normal guys. They are psychopaths who somehow, whose tendencies were somehow hidden from the world. I'm sure there were red flags. I'm sure there were red flags, just like there were red flags in Shraddha's case, but they were ignored by the girls.
Is this to me? Are you asking this question to me?
Rajana ji, I'm coming to you after that.
Absolutely. Red flags are missed when girls do not complain that their boyfriends have told them that they need to share all their passwords. But the boyfriends have told them, do not tell your parents about me. Where their boyfriends have also told them, you have to give me all your locations. Where the boyfriends have kept everything in a secret box. And the girls who are involved in this forget that these are signs of lurking danger in the future. Also, though the father said he was not aware of anything, I would look at it with little doubt, because it's not difficult for parents to smell something is wrong with the girls when these things do happen. And so there have been red flags, and the most important is when the girl isolates herself from her friends, when the girl is very secretive about what she does and where she goes, and the girl refuses to read that she has been controlled completely by the boyfriend or the boy, and this is not love. So education of love, learning, and life, extremely important across all age groups.
Okay. Rajana Kumari, we've just heard from the father. We've heard from the father, and he said that I last met her or spoke to her on the 19th. After that, her phone was switched off. But the fact is that the girl, Nikki, was very much in touch with her sister. So it's not like Shraddha, where family contact was completely broken off. There was family contact in this case, and yet that didn't prove to be a safety net for this girl. I'm thinking to myself, how can a relationship where a girl wants to marry a boy, she clearly thinks the boy is good enough, he's nice enough, he's the man for her. I mean, how she cannot detect that this is someone who could end up murdering her? There are red flags usually in cases like these, aren't there?
Well, these are femicide. This is because girls are getting killed because they are women, they are girls. And also the whole problem is that the safety net, which is family. Family is the biggest safety net. Parents are the biggest safety net. The close friends are biggest safety net. And they are all missing. And why they are missing? Because the girls are trained, told that anything which is they decide to do about their life, that is, falling in love, getting married with someone, living with someone, going and living in relationship, is total no. And especially from the parents' side. And that is why you can see that there was so little communication between the father and the daughter. Perhaps the mother was also, out of fear of the father, was not communicating with the girl because she made a decision. So you isolate her. You don't want any kind of communication between your own child about what she's doing, where she is, what is her likes, what are her dislikes. So those are not rights given to the girls. So what happens when they fall in love with these kind of criminal mind people? Then first thing these boys have done is to isolate them further. So where is the safety net? I mean, this, in both these cases, they have absolutely no connection with anybody, whether it is family, whether it is near ones and dear ones, friends, or any other person in the community. And also, I'm sorry that a lot of these girls cannot, and they don't want to, and they have no courage to go to the police. That also is true, because when you look at the way they are looked at, or they are being held responsible for what is happening to them, which is victim blaming. That's the other aspect of the whole thing, that when she's suffering, she wants to share with her anybody, but then she has her own doubt about it, that look, I mean, I will be blamed for what is happening to me. And that is why girls are not sharing it. That is why they are into these toxic relationships, and eventually they are losing their life. And this femicide has to stop, because we have to really, first of all, families will have to take responsibility. To fall in love is not a crime. To not go for someone they chose to get married is not a crime. And also intercaste marriages are not a crime. But still, in India, acceptability of such kind of relationship is next to zero. Except for very urban, very educated, very, open-minded families, you don't see this is happening. A lot of parents are trying to control lives of their girls, and that is why they get trapped. These are death trapped. They are falling. These are no love stories. These are the death trap where they fall into because of lack of support systems that are, whether it is the law enforcement agencies,
I agree with you.
The family, it's not available.
I agree with you. These are not love relationships. These are death traps. And we've seen that with live-in relationships. Yashovardhan Azad, Dr. Shetty has pointed to something fairly interesting. He's saying that we've heard of copycat suicides, and we have. When you see one person commit suicide, it encourages someone else with tendencies to probably take his or her own life. We've seen that is something that has been studied. Do you think, by the looks of it, the sequence of events, the fact that a fridge was used, etc., do you think that somewhere the Shraddha Walkar murder case inspired Sahil as well? Because the sequence of events is fairly similar. I mean, except that Aftab chopped the girl's body into 32 parts and this one didn't.
So, this gives rise to a lot of other points also, Shreya. I totally agree with Dr. Shetty. There is this copycat model which works among these first-time criminals or hardened criminals. Look at the kind of films they see, and then they embark upon a heist or a loot or a dacoity. It's very impressive the way they. So even in this case, it's quite possible. But that also brings us to a horrible realization that, whether you have capital punishment or whether you have a plethora of laws, this will not lead to, the crime going down at all. So we need some other measures. In fact, I also agree with Ranjana ji, who was actually dedicated her life for upliftment of women. And she made a very good point that even the women are scared to report to the police, because the police, according to its sensitization and according to its training, is not really geared up to face the modern world. You know, they can face up to new age policing of online frauds and digital, yeah. But as far as the views, the moral policing goes, if somebody comes and makes a complaint, they might think they make victim shaming a part of it. Oh, ye to kisi ke saath reh rahi hai, ye pata nahi kya bol rahi hai. So this has to change, and I admit the police also has to do a lot. And secondly, another important point is, look at the resident welfare associations. They will ask 40 questions, and unless they will not accept a live-in relationship in their society, so you have to give a fraud certificate or something that you are married, and then you will live there. As a result, they lead very, very secret lives. And in the atomized society that you have, there is no information which goes out. So this has to be changed, and this has to be broken from all sides. And I admit that the police has to play a very, very important role in this too.
Okay, you know, before I end this show, there are two important advisories I think that need to be put out, and the first one will be put out by Dr. Harish Shetty. Dr. Harish Shetty, by the looks of it, Aftab was normal. By the looks of it, Sahil was normal. By the looks of it, Hardik was normal. They haven't committed any crimes in the past. They all seem to be working individuals. How do you know you're dealing with a psychopath who could end up murdering you? It's a tough question. I don't want to put you on a spot, but I'm sure there are signs that we can detect.
Yeah. If he or she, if he is pleasure-seeking, selfish, sweet on his words, but does not follow up with the action, could be violent emotionally or physically, would want to control a lot of things about the girl's life, would also threaten subtly, mildly, microscopically, and this slowly increases. So you get into the trap of the girl. At the same time, girls should understand that it's easy to get a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but difficult to get good friends, and investing in friendships is very important. Apart from this, the girl would also see that he would not care about her education, about her future, and about her prospects, about her own life. And there's a lot of lying. There's a lot of financial exploitation also around this. And he would only be self-centered and think about his own joys, his own pleasures, and his own needs.
Okay, so those are the things that you need to keep an eye out for, and always remember, if you're investing in a boyfriend, don't forget your friends. They could end up saving your life one day. Ranjana Kumari, any advice to parents? Because I think parents are the ones, at least we found out in Shraddha's case, and maybe to some extent in the case of Nikki as well, that parents could do with some advice as well.
Well, I would say, Shreya, that first thing is that times are changing. You know, please, all parents must recognize that times are changing, and also our youth is getting exposed to a kind of living when you have websites, Bumble, Tumble, all kinds of systems where you are trying to seek relationship, you're trying to find boyfriends, girlfriends. Relationships are becoming very, very normal thing of the day. So even if a girl makes a mistake and falls in love with someone, or maybe makes friends with someone who is not really of your like, your choice, your caste, your economic status, let it be. Let her, decide, give her that right. And also don't break ever the communication with your younger ones. If you have done that, then you've done the greatest mistake of your life, because then you will not know what's happening to her. And also for men and boys, I think this whole idea of entitlement and jealousy and control, and that you don't want your girl to even look at somebody else, all those traits are traits where anytime these boys can become very violent, they can become really dangerous for the girls. So girls should also be on lookout for these, and parents should also be very, very mindful of how they are raising their men and the boys. If we are not mindful of that, this is what is going to end into boys becoming criminals, murderers, and gruesome murderers. This is not just a normal murder. You kill someone, you cut the person into pieces, and someone you are supposed to be loving. I mean, what kind of a love is this? This is complete freak. These are the freaks who are just possessive and controlling. So I think don't raise such boys. Don't raise boys who are freaks, who are, beasts in society. Please don't, because our girls are in a new era. They are learning to be confident. They are learning to be deciding. They are learning to, the education, the exposure, all that is making them a human being, a person who has every right, as you have given the rights and choices to your boys. So I would say, please continue the communication. Also, please know about it and give her chance to make mistakes. Bring her back.
Okay. Yashwardhan Azad, I think another important advice that maybe you can give to all young couples who have decided to live in together, or even married couples, is have communication with your beat constable and your circle officer. Phone number rakho uska.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. In fact, in all the metros and all the places where you have a good system, whether it's the social media or whether it's the campaign you carry out through various platforms, it is important for lady police officers who are holding very, very high positions now to reach out to women. After Nirbhay Kand, there were a series of programs which are being carried. Of course, it's unfortunate that only 37% of the money was being spent. But here is a time that we should take these incidents very, very seriously. And in fact, at the central level and at the state level, the police should reach out to single women, to women in any kind of relationships without making any kind of a moral judgment. And say that you must reach us out. Then secondly, the beat constables and the community policing has to be strengthened. Third, reach out to all these resident associations and establish some kind of a rapport that you get more and more information. Request even Ranjana Kumaris from their institute to organize, seminars and TV channels to talk about such cases of women who have broken out of such relationships and made lives on their own.
We'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. I think there are some important things we are taking away from these shows. There are red flags in these relationships. If there are red flags, don't ignore them. For parents, don't break the communication line with your child if he or she has decided to go and live with someone you don't approve of. And see, very importantly, Dr. Harish Shetty has listed for us, the signs of how or why the person you're living it could be a psychopath. He's listed out signs that you need to watch out for. So please be careful. We'll leave it there for the moment. Dr. Harish Shetty, thank you very much. Good to have you on the show. Ranjana Kumari, thank you for your time. And Yashwardhan Azad, thank you very much for bringing in some perspective on the show as well. On that note, I'm stepping into a quick break on the show.